game. Time to play the game!
Hey guys, how are you? It's me, To, from the To Knows Everything podcast and at GTA Sportsplex. It is another TFC Roundtable today, brought to you by our sponsor, Popeyes Woodbridge, and our good friend Santiago from TFC On The Road. Today I have my special guest, the real Marco G, in the house, NIKO and DANTE, and we're going to be shooting the breeze about TFC, talking about everything you want to know, the players, and the inside scoop that nobody else will be able to give you in the Big Six. So guys, it's been a crazy couple of weeks for TFC. We've seen a lot of ups and downs. They just played Portland. We've seen changes in the goaltending. We've seen changes up front. We've seen Altidore get hurt. DANTE, what's your assessment of what's happening in the big house?
Oh, I think it's chaotic right now. I mean, we got a defense that I don't know what's happening. We got forward problems. We got goaltender issues. We got, I don't know, maybe coaching issues.
Absolutely.
I think it's a bit of everything.
You got it. There is a mixed bag of things that are going on, and people are starting to ask questions. NIKO, we were just talking about Altidore getting hurt and commenting on the fact that there was some support staff, the physiotherapy staff that used to work for TFC last year when Giovinco was around. They actually had an Italian physiotherapist that worked with all the designated players. He was not available for Altidore to treat him the day that he got injured, and he called out MLSE executives. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he has a point. I mean, everyone always talks about Altidore's glass, and he is to a certain extent. His hamstring was a big issue, but he hasn't hurt that hamstring since 2016 when the trainer started working with him. Now this year he's not working with him, and all of a sudden the hamstring goes out again. Not a good sign. What gives me hope is that the next day, apparently him and Manning, they smooth things over. Everything is good now. They sent out the picture of Altidore with the trainer. So hopefully things are smooth over, because right now we have to keep Altidore happy, because if we lose him, we're done.
So obviously that's a little bit of damage control. I think MLSE is wise enough to understand that, hey, you don't want to air your dirty laundry. No. Do you think it was right of Altidore, a professional player of his caliber and at his level, a designated player, to air out his dirty laundry to the media and to the city?
Honestly, guys, I definitely think it's a good move for him.
You would have done it if you were Altidore.
100%. You're only as good as the team and the staff that you're with. So if no one's supporting you, how can you get things done? How can you accomplish, which the target is to win games? Because championships aren't won 20 games at a time. They don't think of the whole season. Championships are won one game at a time, guys. One game at a time. And if we're not, listen, if we're not backing our beast player who's smashing goals when he's in top fitness, what's the point of even having him around?
I agree with you, but just to use the analogy of a family, when something goes down in the family, do you air out your dirty laundry to the rest of the schoolhouse, or do you keep it inside and try and work it out? Should have Altidore went back into the change room and talked it out there in private? Is it right to air that dirty laundry?
You keep it behind closed doors. I mean, Altidore got hurt on that hamstring that he's hurt so many times. He was frustrated after the game. He came off. The media got him right away. In that heat of the moment, he let it go. Absolutely. He knows he probably shouldn't have done it, but it is what it is. And he got a result from it, so why not do it in the future if you're going to get results right away?
He ended up getting what he wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. So. Does it take yelling and screaming to get what you want with MLSE? That's the real question, because it seems like they're reactionary. They only react to issues once they've happened. They're not proactive. So they should have known, obviously, because this trainer worked with them for the last couple of years that Giovinco was here, worked on Bradley, worked on Altidore, worked on Giovinco. They should have kept that guy around. At the end of the day, I'm going to guarantee you, they didn't pay him more than 150 grand a year. I'd venture to say they paid him 50 grand a year. Why not keep a guy like that on to make sure that your key players are healthy?
Well, it's two big issues I see from this whole scenario. One, Altidore's still upset with management over how they handled Giovinco, because they were buds. You know what I mean? And he's obviously still discontent with that, that he's easily just now aggravated over everything. You see him with Pozuelo, they look happy together, but you know he misses Giovinco. They're best buds. Of course. Second is that why isn't this trainer working with the whole team? Why is it only the designated players that get this physiotherapist working on their muscles? Why isn't the whole team getting access to this?
It tells you about the mentality of management and the lack of insight from the coaching staff. You would think with the experience, at the end of the day, Vanny's an experienced coach now. Guy's won an MLS Cup. He's played in the MLS. He's gone through the ranks, U.S. soccer. how can he not be advocating to have a member of staff who keeps your team healthy on staff year round? It amazes me.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
Right? Makes no sense. Marco, what would you have done differently in that game?
In that game, with the result of the injury, what I would have done, who's to say that he didn't bring it up behind closed doors and got nothing was solved? Because there's so many times that you could say to someone, nice, but nice doesn't cut it sometimes.
Right.
So you gotta be you
gotta take action, Tom. You gotta be hurt.
You gotta be a little bit of a prick to get your point across.
And he got what he wanted.
He did, and it was definitely an effective method. So hats off to Altidore.
Absolutely. What do you guys think about the goaltending situation? We're starting to bounce back and forth from Bono to our other goalkeeper. What do you guys think?
I think Vanny's got to come out and say this is the starting goalie. Like,
Who's the starting goalie? Like it. Is Bono the starting goalie for you? Because I was there at the game for Minnesota, and I got to tell you, he looks super shaky to me. His distribution of the ball is very poor, lacks confidence, doesn't get to the ball first. I don't know what it is with Bono, but he is definitely lacking the confidence to come out and win that ball.
Yeah, Dante, as you were saying, it was the first goal where Quintero came down and Bono came out to play a ball that he had no business playing, and he went right by him and put it in. Correct. Bono's not the starting goalie. Neither, though, is Westberg, from what I've seen. Yeah, we don't have a starting goalie right now. We have two guys that should be on the bench on any other team.
I think we should bring in a young cat that wants to make a name for himself. That Bono, this and that, blah blah blah. All the goals I see him let in, they're cheese goals. And then he pulls a miracle out of nowhere, a 1 foot Buffon like in 2006. So I don't get it.
There was a saying that I read that I believe it was Joshua Cloak, who writes for The Athletic, brought up. He says, when goalies make those acrobatic saves, it means they were in the wrong position to start with.
Right. Yes.
If you have to go out and make that stretch save, you weren't positioned well to begin with, and that's Bono to a T. He makes those circus saves because he's never in the right position.
He pinches too much.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He thinks he's faster than the striker, that guy's just running like a horse all day.
Yeah, he lacks the perception of the field, and he lacks the clarity to see where he really needs to be in certain set plays. Even in a play where you've got 2 or 3 attacking guys, he's completely out of position. I got to disagree with you about one thing. I don't think you need a young cat. I think you need an experienced goaltender who knows the game, because that's your quarterback. At the end of the day, every great team that's ever won a championship, a World Cup, Division I, NCAA Division Cup, has had a goalie that has been your general. And you need an experienced goalie if you want to go all the way.
So are we calling PSG and calling Buffon?
Listen,
or what?
hey,
we're going to call Buffon or what?
I said it a couple of weeks ago.
Why
Honestly,
not?
MLS, he's definitely got the money, but I don't know about the cap with the money that they've spent. At the end of the day, you bring a guy like Buffon, I'll tell you something. Just in jersey sales alone, you will pay for him. Look at the Ronaldo effect. Ronaldo was paid for by jersey sales in the first month.
The first
day. Worldwide sales. Okay, so as an investment, it makes total sense. But I think you need an experienced goalie in all seriousness.
It's tough. It's tough when you have the situation that they're in, because Bono did look so promising at the beginning. He was called up to the United States junior team to train with them. He looked so promising, which makes me wonder: is it mental?
Right.
Has something just switched in him? Like we always talk about in the NHL with goalies and how much of it's mental compared to physical.
What happened to
it could be the same thing. It could be the same thing with goalies in soccer as well. It's tough to see because he had so much promise.
Yeah, like Carey Price. Look at him. What happened? Yeah, he was doing great with the Canadians, and now
every great player, and I always reference back to my generation. Diego Maradona had a psychologist that worked with him. Now, mind you, he had a lot of vices. He had a lot of problems.
He needed that psychologist.
100%. But I'll tell you something. He was an amazing player, and one of the reasons why is because he worked with a sports psychologist who told him, you are the best, you cannot miss, you are the best forward of all time, and he was convinced in his own mind and convinced by others who surrounded him that he could do no wrong on the field.
That's true.
So that is what you need in sports today, and I don't see it happening. Like, there's no motivator on TFC. Who's the team motivator on TFC? Who's out there pumping these guys up? Because Bradley has taken a back seat. He used to be the guy. I don't know what's happened to Bradley. I used to love him. He was the real general on the pitch. He is no longer that general. And you know what? The psyche of the team has changed. And you know what I contributed to? Jovinko in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to tell you because it was like a switch being turned off. As soon as he was gone, that team was deflated. The motivation is no longer there. Not to say that Jovinko was a motivator, because he definitely wasn't. But his actions through his play was motivating.
Yeah.
And I think people responded to that, and so did the stands. The stands were full. Everybody was cheering him on. You got a hometown crowd of 30,000 people. Last game against Minnesota, I think there were 20,000 people in the stands, a little shy of 20,000 people. So people, even though with Ponzuelo there, who's been doing, I got to say, very well, adapting
Fantastic.
to the MLS game, phenomenal
Smashing
player,
goals. Yeah.
doesn't get the same response as
100%.
Giovinco.
Yeah.
No, doesn't. But he is a better player than Giovinco would have been this year. I'd much rather Pozuelo on a team from a soccer standpoint, not a selling jersey standpoint, not a filling a stadium standpoint, or from a soccer standpoint. Would much rather Pozuelo this year than a Giovinco.
Yeah, his goals have all been spectacular, and he sets
his assists, 4 goals, 5 assists in like 6 games or 5 games, whatever it is. It's crazy.
Everything runs through it.
Absolutely. So, Nico, we talked about it the last time. We said, what happens if Altidore gets injured? Who does Pozuelo feed? Because obviously that connection was starting to build, the Altidore-Pozuelo connection. Who does he work with now? Who does he feed? Because we've saw some substitutions have come in, and I think, you know, some of these guys are capable. And I think we talked about it before. Guys like a Terrence Boyd maybe deserve another shot. What do you think?
Vanny needs to wake up and realize there's no shame in admitting you were wrong and switching your formations. If Altidore's out, Altidore's good enough to play that sole striker role while Pozuelo drifts back a little bit and distributes. When he's not there, you can't. I love Hamilton, I love Akinola, Boyd seems like a great guy. None of those guys can play the center by themselves. Take off Delgado, who ain't doing nobody any favors by being on the midfield anyways. Throw on a second striker, have Hamilton and Boyd start, or Akinola and Boyd. That way you have the veteran leadership of someone like Boyd with one of the young kids. And then sub in Akinola or Hamilton, the other one, at the half if you need someone fresh. 2 strikers should always be on there. Look at the game, I believe it was against New England, when Altidore just came back from his injury. He started on the bench. They started with 2 strikers. What happened? Akinola scored, Hamilton scored. They subbed in Altidore for Hamilton. Altidore scored in that 2-striker system. And then they completely abandoned it when Pozuelo came in because they're saying Pozuelo plays the striker role with Altidore. He doesn't. He's a midfielder, period.
He's a central attacking mid.
He's a CAM by any other name.
Done.
And the fact that TFC isn't realizing that is a joke, and Vanny needs to switch that formation.
Agreed. Like, I agree with you 100%, especially about Delgado. I don't know how many chances you can give this guy, and no disrespect to him, but at a certain point, you're a professional player, you're getting paid, you're not producing. It's time for him to see the bench. He cannot be starting every single game. And I got to tell you another player that I'm very disappointed in, because this guy had huge potential, and I don't know what's happened to him. Osorio. And, you know, I know he scored that goal that basically bumped off his leg the last game. He's a talented guy, but this year he is not the same Osorio that we saw last year or the year previous. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think Osorio, he's got to adapt now, because I think Pozuelo's just taken over, and Osorio's like, I'm just going to take a back seat over here. But I feel like when Giovinco was playing with him, Osorio built somewhat of a confidence during that Champions League run. Even Delgado, even to add for that, like that was his last, I guess, major stint. But yeah, he's just got to adapt more to Pozuelo. I don't know if it's a playing together thing, chemistry, building, but we'll see in the next few games. I'll get a better idea of
And
Osorio.
time.
Yeah.
You need some time. You got to give them a little bit of time. But really, at the end of the day, you don't want to go on a downward spiral where there's no coming back.
Exactly, yeah.
Sure. You guys ever watch the show Band of Brothers?
Yeah.
Okay? About the World War II guys. They had the platoon.
Exactly.
Now, they started together. They didn't know each other. It took time to get their trust.
Right.
Then, when they had their team, they didn't want to be friends with the young guys that came in, because they knew, hey, these guys were going to end up dying. And
so they didn't want to form a bond because you weren't sure they were going to be there.
So you take out Giovinco, your sergeant major, the guy you look up to, all your other guys, crumble. You pull out a key guy. And not only that, they were good on the field, but they had a friendship outside of the field. They hung out together.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned something like that, because there's actually a fantastic write-up right now on Osorio, and the guy followed him, and he said when he came in, none of the veteran guys helped him at all. He had to go by himself, work by himself, and get to where he is. And now he's trying to do the opposite for guys like Liam Fraser. He told Fraser, he says, meet me at 7 a.m., we'll train, we'll do everything. He's trying to give that role. And that's why I'm going to go ahead here and disagree with you guys a little on the whole Osorio scenario. Yes, he hasn't done as much as he done last year. However, he's still doing stuff behind the scenes. In 7 games, he has 2 goals and 4 assists. The 4 assists is a big number for 7 games. He isn't as on the ball as he was last year. You know, he's taken more of a supporting role. He plays where he needs to play. I mean, I am a big fan of Osorio. I mean, he's Colombian. I'm half Colombian. Like, I love the guy. I love the guy. He's a fantastic player.
Listen, I think he had huge potential. I actually think he shouldn't have re-signed with TFC. Personally, that guy should have been playing in Europe.
Well, so in this write-up too, that the story was a Mexican team that he left nameless, came and actually had a dinner with him and offered him a contract. And he said his dream is to play in Europe.
Right.
And if he does, he wants to be sold from TFC. So TFC matched the offer. He stayed with us, but you got to think his mind's still getting to Europe. So you're right. He does need to perform more.
He does.
If he wants to get to
Europe. He's got
huge
potential. Listen,
he can't lie under the radar.
Right.
He has to go at it.
You can't be the second guy on the pitch. You got to be the first guy. And it doesn't matter if Pozuelo's a designated player, and if he's making the big bucks, Osorio's got to act like he's the designated player.
Like
that's really the only way to get to Europe. You can't be in a secondary role.
Yeah,
no way. Let's talk a little bit about the defense. We got issues, guys. You know, like you've seen it with Mavinga.
Understatement of the year.
Missing more. Defense has just crumbled. What are your thoughts on defensively? Like, what should they be doing?
Moore, please come back.
So, listen, I'm going to tell you something about Moore. Great guy. Another guy who was a general. Listen, age creeps up on you, and so do injuries, and I think he's at that point. What do we need to do to make sure that we have a strong defense?
TAM defender? I mean, because at this point you have Mavinga, who is a fantastic defender, but he makes some sloppy mistakes.
Yep.
But you see sometimes where he's hauling down, throws out the sliding foot, and gets the ball out of there and makes a gorgeous defensive play you see on highlights all week long. But he makes some very poor mistakes on where he should be and where the ball is that allow goals sometimes. I think Mavinga's fantastic, but he needs to have a field general on there telling him where to go. Moore, I need him back, but you're right, he's getting older. These injuries are getting more frequent.
You can see it.
Simon, we thought could have been that guy, but hasn't been so far. Zavaleta is only on the team because he's Vanny's nephew.
Wow. That was beautiful.
And then you know what? Our wing.
I smell rolls.
It's true.
Holy,
but
barbecue season.
But it's true. It's true. Zavaleta, listen, he had his moments in our cup run. He played well in that formation, but he's not a starter in the MLS, in my opinion.
Drew Moore made him look good.
Drew Moore made him look great. And it's just, he's not a starter. Our wing backs, I still have complete faith in our wing backs with Moro and Auro. I have complete faith in them, but they're too offensive-minded. They're not coming back.
Absolutely.
And they only work when you play 3 center backs. Lately, Vanny's been playing the 2 center backs, and with those guys going up, now we're trapped.
Yeah, you have 2 guys in the back.
You have 2 guys.
You're playing high like Zambrota back in the day.
You got those 2 guys,
get picked.
and you need Bradley now chipping back to help out on the defensive end as well, and that's not what you want.
Absolutely, and that's where we're lacking in the midfield. Because Bradley is playing such a defensive role, we no longer have that strength in the middle that we used to have when Bradley was an attacking midfield.
And we're getting caught, guys, like down the wings, because they're very offensive-minded. We're getting burned. Like we see it time and time out.
We don't have the speed on
Seattle
our
game, Minnesota. Like, so I could go on and on.
We shouldn't be going high on the wings then. The way they have to do the defense is an old school style. Know that you don't have the fastest guys on the wings, but when you keep your guys in a line, in a 4-4-2 or, and a 4-4, when I say 4-4-2, the way I describe it, it should be 4-4 and 2 but vertical, not horizontal. So one is like a CAM,
like a 4-4-1-1. You have
like a center forward and then the striker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they gotta play triangles. Okay. Yeah. Now when you have your defense in a straight line, guess what? It's a straight line. You stay together. You can play the offside trap. When you have 2 guys leaving and you're just caught in the middle, and you're in the box. What's going to happen? You're going to get overlapped. One guy pinches, and they have the guy at the top of the point ready for that pass back.
You're right. And I want to give Moro and Auro all the credit in the world, because they run more on that pitch than anyone realizes they run, because they're going forward and they're going back. But if you're doing that the whole game, you're going to get slower. You're going to get slower. No matter how good of an athlete you are, you're going to get slower.
By the 75th minute, they're done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Moro and Auro, I think, especially Moro gets a lot of heat from fans, because they say, you know what, he's not always coming back. He is always coming back. It's always running full speed back because he goes so far up to attack. He is coming back, and it's just, when you do that all game, it's tiring. Like, the poor guy. That's why if they're not going to switch to 2 forwards, then they need to go back to 5 defense and play the 3 center backs and then the 2 wingers and let them go. It worked for us to win the cup that year. Exactly. That's how we played it. We had Moore, Zavaleta, Mavinga, and then Moro and Betashore on the wings, and that's how we won.
3-5-2 is
Guys, I want to talk about a TFC player that's on loan in the CPL, Ryan Telfler. He scored the first goal, the historic first goal for the CPL, the Canadian Premier League,
He'll go down in
on
history.
Saturday, on loan from TFC. They played the Forge out in Hamilton. What do you think about him?
I mean, you know what? Even last year, you saw him with TFC when he got his opportunities in the Canadian Championship. He looked like he had promise.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it was nice seeing him to be the first ever goal scorer in CPL history. He's going to go down in history. That's his goal. It was a nice goal, nice play built up by York. Unfortunately, Hamilton came back and tied it. You know, York guys over here. Let's go York9. But Hamilton came back and tied it, but it was good to see Telfer get the goal.
What do you guys think about the quality of play? We're just going to talk about it because our fans are obviously Toronto fans, Toronto FC fans. A lot of people probably had some interest, maybe watch the game, although it was on the same day as the TFC game, which was sort of ridiculous in terms of scheduling. But it was a couple hours before. What do you think of the quality of play?
Okay, I honestly watched the game. I saw the first goal, fantastic. You know, Telfler just completely burned Forge's defense. But what I saw was two professional teams try and make it happen on the first game. The way I saw it, York9 had more calculated, nice-looking European-style type soccer plays and didn't pinch so much on the ball to make it a not 1v1. They kept it 1v1 on their side.
Look at who's their coach, right? Jimmy Brennan.
Exactly.
That's the defender mindset, right? He play that way. You don't pitch.
Don't bunch. And Forge was going after everything, trying to get the ball, 3-4 guys at a time, and then Chris NIKO kept putting the ball into the box, but to nobody. Looking for it. There was no one there.
Marco,
and I think the game pace is a lot slower.
Okay, that's what I want to ask you. In terms of quality of play, where would you rank the CPL level in comparison to MLS? And I know it was only the first game. You got to give them some time.
Yeah, of course.
But where would you say that it ranks? Is this a C division, a D division? Where does it rank for you?
Okay, compared to MLS, since MLS, you know, definitely has picked up pace and it looks a hell of a lot more like European soccer. It's beautiful. But I would say it's, you know, maybe a Div 2, Div 3, okay? Like, listen, I played with a lot of those guys on York9. I played with a lot of guys in the CPL. Believe me.
And I'm sure you smashed 90% of them. 90%
I honestly have.
Got
They know
style.
If you ask Emilio Estevez on York9 about Marco Giorgio, he'll tell every player, watch out for that guy. Because that guy
I don't need to ask him, I believe you.
That guy plays with square balls, he's going to tell him. You know what I'm saying?
Is it a farm system essentially for the MLS?
Yes. It has to be.
That's what they have to aim for. They have to aim to be an option aside from USL.
Yes.
If they could set themselves up as a team as teams that can compete in the USL, if they were in there, that's what they need to do. They can't focus about MLS.
There's actually some news I got about that. Apparently, they're going to be forcing all the Canadian teams that are within the USL and USL 2 to have to play in Canada.
Ottawa was the first one of that. Ottawa Fury.
Ottawa, they renewed this year. They said next year you have to go to CPL.
CPL.
Now, we have Thunder Bay Chill. We got Calgary Foothills. We got a bunch of teams that are top-notch teams. We don't have a USL team from Toronto, guys.
Well, Toronto SC2 plays USL.
Toronto
SC2. Or they did 2 years ago. I don't know if they did last year.
I don't know where they are right now.
They were in USL.
Yeah. So on the topic of this right now, I've been doing some research in terms of this because I'm following exactly what you're following. And I looked into the Ottawa Fury franchise, which happens to be on the market for $3 million. For the Ottawa Fury franchise.
Really?
Okay, so a lot of things are going through my mind. Okay, so we're going to talk after this because I think there's a lot of potential in Ottawa. I think in certain markets the CPL will do well, depending on whether or not they have other product. In Toronto, it's going to be a very hard uphill battle because you've got the MLS here, because you've got the NBA, the Leafs, the Toronto Rock, the Argos. It never ends. Now we've got rugby. Like, we've got every major sports franchise that you can think of. So it is going to be tough. 100%. Although, I have to say, in certain markets, I think the CPL could work. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think in terms of the smaller markets, because they don't have much of, like, in terms of teams, like, other than, like, for example, Ottawa is just like the Senators and then obviously CFL, but in terms of those smaller markets, that's where you can hit the youth especially more.
Like
That's where the grassroots.
It's Halifax's only pro team.
That's
Yeah.
it. So in
I watched
Halifax,
that
it makes
game.
total sense.
I
You're going to
watched
get the
that
families out. It's an affordable
Yeah.
day out with your family.
Exactly.
It makes total sense.
Even the team out in Vancouver, it's on the
Pacific.
island. It's not in
Pacific.
Vancouver.
Right.
Pacific, they're
Pacific
on the
FC, they
island.
held an entertaining game. God bless them all. Marcus Haber, buddy of mine, who he actually wants to come on and say what's up. I wanted to tell you.
We're gonna get him on here.
We're gonna get him here.
Yeah, no, he's the Pacific FC. All the fans from there that I've seen on Twitter, they're all saying, "Listen, we have no ties to the Whitecaps because it's a 3-hour drive for us to get there."
right. No.
So they have a team now. So it's good.
They were a packed house. It was entertaining. I saw just from Instagram clips. Pacific FC held a great game. They won 1-0 against Halifax.
How nice is that purple too? They have.
Beautiful, royal purple.
If the league is smart, eventually, right now they only have 7 teams. But if the league is smart and to keep it a cost-effective,
Yeah, they can't raise the price too much
and
on
not
bringing
only
the
raising
teams
the
in.
price, I think you need to have 2 divisions: a Western Division and an Eastern Division,
Yes.
because
like
traveling
that.
costs.
Traveling's gonna be brutal.
And I think people want to see more of a local type rivalry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
People
Believe
want to
that,
see Ottawa play York9. People want to see that, right? So I think it would be wise if they could eventually do that.
Well,
And then there's a chance of sustainability.
I heard through the grapevine, if it goes well, there might be a team called Kingston Knights coming out.
I've heard Kingston. I've heard my next either 2020. They're saying more likely 2021, but they're aiming for 2020 is a team out of Quebec. They're saying it could
Yeah, there's nothing
either
out of
be
Quebec
Quebec
right now.
City, it could be Laval
Yeah.
having a
Nice.
team. That's
Yeah.
what they've been talking about,
Nice.
bringing one in. So they are looking to expand in the coming years. I
Yeah.
think the first 5 years of this league,
It's gonna be tough.
It's tough,
Shaky.
and if they could get past it, they're good. But it's going to be a tough 5 years.
They have to do it for the next 5 years. They will sustain because Soccer Canada needs them for the World Cup 2026.
Exactly.
So whether they make money, lose money, break even, doesn't
Yeah,
make
I
a
agree.
difference. The league will sustain for the next 5 years for certain.
Can I tell you one of my biggest issues with Toronto media?
Yeah.
You look at Sportsnet, on their page, they had everything. They had CPL this, CPL that, CPL that. You went to TSN, zilch.
Yeah.
And they were in talks of getting the rights for some of the games. I don't know if they did, but they had nothing for CPL going on in the opening
Yeah.
weekend,
It's a
which
good
is a
point.
joke.
Yeah.
It's a
Good point.
joke. They had stuff about stuff no one cares about, but nothing on the CPL in the opening weekend.
They'll have curling, yeah.
It's brutal. You
Throwing a
gotta
piece of
support.
granite rock.
You guys
I do that every day at work.
TSN calls themselves too like the host for soccer here. You know, they got all the TFC stuff here. They got all the guys. They got Caldwell. They got Wildman. They got
That's
all
right.
of them. And none of these guys were talking CPL.
So I got 2 beefs with the CPL. Actually, not with the players, because I think at the end of the day, they put on a decent show
Yeah.
for a first game. Like, you know, in out west, they put on a great show, and I even think Hamilton York9 put on some pretty
Yeah,
good
no, it was
soccer
good.
for the first game out. It was very windy. It looked like a beautiful day on
Yeah.
TV, which
Yeah.
it was, but it was extremely windy in Hamilton, and I think it was a tough game to play with all of that wind.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you the product was decent for the first game. The only beef that I have with the CBC, especially in the commentary, is, again, what do we have on CBC? We have soccer followed by track and field, and then we have commentators who really, at the end of the day, are not the commentators
Yeah.
that should be
There's no
commentating.
passion.
There's
Yeah.
zero passion. It is dead. The commentary was horrible. I'm sorry. And it was almost
was
worse
incorrect.
than Jimmy Brennan's green scarf. He looked like a leprechaun. Jimmy Brennan, don't wear that green scarf. I gotta tell you, if you're gonna wear a suit, you got a nice 3-piece suit.
That's it,
The
buddy.
green scarf, I know green is your color for the team and the logo. Don't wear the damn scarf. You look like a
Don
leprechaun.
Cherry.
Yeah, straight
wear
up.
something completely crazy.
No, going on the commentary.
No passion in the commentary, none
no,
whatsoever.
He made the first goal, York9's first goal.
They called the wrong player.
They gave it to
Wrong
Cyrus
player.
Rollins.
Wrong
Come my,
player.
come my buddy Cyrus Rollins. And it wasn't him.
I'm
it was
sure he'll
lined
take
up.
it. I'm
Oh,
sure he'll
Cyrus
take
will take. He's a great player.
Listen,
we're
you
gonna
know,
have you on
what-
too, brother. Don't worry.
What they need is they need someone to deliver with energy. Look at BN Sports. Who do they have doing their commentary for almost every game they have? Ray Hudson.
Ray Hudson.
Yeah.
I can watch anything if he's commentating it because he brings so much life to the game.
Absolutely.
You put someone like
Absolutely.
that in a CPL role, it makes the game so much more interesting.
Yeah.
A person who could call the game correctly and with
Absolutely.
enthusiasm makes it so much easier to watch, and they need someone like that. I know Gareth Wheeler did one game. I can't remember which game he did over the past weekend or if he's going to do, and he's not bad, but if that's your standard for commentators, you
Yeah.
need to be reaching higher.
Guys,
I
just
agree.
just call Tony.
Toe
Come on.
Knowles, give me a shot.
Toe
I'll
Knowles,
show
give
you
me-
guys how to do it.
CPL, this is
We'll
the
bring on the
commentator.
crew right here. We'll bring on the crew. CPSL, if you want,
Done.
you can call us. We're not cheap, but we'll do it.
We'll do it.
At the end of the
100%.
day, I think the CPL will be around for the next couple of years. They have to be.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Whether it
2026.
succeeds or not,
CPL,
it's
let's
going to
do it,
succeed
guys.
till 2026.
Yeah.
I hope a lot of these young players get a shot at playing for the Canadian national team, because really that's the dream, and we wish them the best of luck with that. One last thing before we wrap it up, guys, I just want to talk about Champions League. We had Ajax, they won 1-0. The only positive thing that I can say about that is that they took Juve out, and now at least they're proving that they're a real contender. Who's going to win the Champions League?
I'm calling Ajax because I want to say that Juve lost for the champion.
Okay,
they had the want. They had the want.
Did, yeah,
young guys that they're foaming at the mouth.
I like that
win.
kind of team. They play with heart. I agree. NIKO?
I would love to see Ajax win as well. They're a young team. They're making a great story. If they can't pass Tottenham, I hope Tottenham wins, because I do not want to see Liverpool win. I do not even more want to see Messi win, because I'm a Ronaldo boy. I don't want Messi to get another Champions League title. So I don't like Barcelona. To me, if I had to unbiased pick my winner, Barcelona wins. They look too strong, but I don't want to see Messi win.
You never know, though. Ajax
you never know. Ajax is looking good.
Dante, what's your prediction?
You know what? I agree with NIKO here. Barcelona. It's just the form they're in right now. It's
too good.
Incredible.
It's unbreakable.
Like, and it's just it brings me back to those days with the Xavi Nesta, the Tiki Taka. Like,
absolutely.
It's just. And even, I guess I could say a Ray Hudson line here. It's magisterial.
Absolutely. I agree.
Right?
So guys, thank you for joining us. This was another episode of the TFC Roundtable. I am super excited as a soccer fan. We've got so much exciting stuff happening. This summer, we've got International Cup coming to North America. Some big teams. We're going to talk about that on future episodes. We got Champions League to talk about, TFC, CPL. If you are a soccer fan, do not miss it. Thanks to Popeye's Woodbridge Supplements for sponsoring, and support this guy, TFC on the road. There's a road trip July 13th to Montreal. All the TFC fans got to be on that bus. We're going to go down and cause a ruckus.
We're all going. We're all going.
We'll see you next time. Cheers.
It's all about the game and how you play it. It's all about control. And if you can take it, it's all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pay. And who's gonna make it?